April 2023 for our FSA AGM, and it is our 10th, which is exciting, isn't it? It's a good number, and it's in the year that Forest School in the UK turns 30. So a memorable year, and a good opportunity for us to get together and look at what's happened in the past year and what's planned for the year to come. And we're really thrilled to have a colleague all the way from India joining us. Barnabas has turned up to find out a bit more about Forest School, which is really exciting. So today we have apologies from Fru, who is a trustee, and Lily, who is a trustee. Lily may join us a bit later. I haven't heard of apologies from anybody else. I know that Lewis, who is also a trustee, is currently in the middle of a strongman competition and is going to join us in his lunch hour. So he might just be putting some clothes on before he joins us. So I don't know if there's anybody else that anyone's had apologies from. No, we're happy there. And our next task is to formally agree the minutes from the last meeting. I'm hoping that everyone who needed to has read them and agreed them. Did anyone have any amendments that they needed to get made? There was one word that I noticed on page 2 at the top when it talked about the FSA values. It said professionalism and quality, effectivity and sustainability, and it needs to say approachability instead. So we just need to get that changed. I mean, I think we are aiming to be effective, but approachability was the value that we have. Is there anything else? Hello, Vicky, lovely to see you. Thank you so much for making time to join us. Anything else anyone wants to amend or change? No, so we're happy we can agree those. Wonderful. And it's now my task to sort of guide us through the report. I just had a quick chat with Gareth when we got on the call to say this feels like a really good report that's been written that does reflect the hard work, the amazing amount of work that's been done. And when we get to the end of it, you look at the financial stuff, I think you're going to be amazed, well, as I am, at everything that's happened with a very, very small budget. And that is hugely down to the massive amount of work that Gareth and Nell and Nick have done, and a huge amount of work that's gone into the FSA through volunteering. So the trustees who are here, those who aren't here, our advisors, we've had advisors in the past 2 years, we've piloted that. And we also have ambassadors. So it's great that Sarah Knight is here representing our ambassadors. Thank you, Sarah. And of course, we have Tim Gill, our patron, who came and joined us at the conference, which was a really great time when we all got together in October. So I recommend this report to you. I'm going to whistle through it, and colleagues who are here on the call are going to step in and speak to the bits that they've actually written. So a lot of this is going to be, Gareth, if you want to chip in on any of your bits, that would be great. I'm happy to lead us through. So I set the context of Forest School being 30 years old in the UK, and that we are still a very young charity. We're only 10 years old. And it's amazing what we've done in 10 years. And that has really come from a huge amount of love and commitment and passion from people like Sarah and Jeff and Lou, who've been involved in the FSA right from the very beginning. So here we are, 10 years old. We've kind of gone, we really need to get our act together. We need to even build our professionalism so that we have that, I think, the grounding and the structure and the security that really good governance will give us. So we're at that point where we can kind of say we're growing up and we're moving into the next phase of our life. And we were really grateful for the support of Meg Boyle, our governance officer, who stepped in and helped us look at governance. And out of that, we've got a trustees handbook, which the trustees are going to be looking at and developing and working with. And again, refreshing our understanding of the articles of association, all the what might be called the boring bit of being a trustee, but actually is the really vitally important part. It's all that stuff that actually enables us to support Gareth and the team and you know, look strategically at where we want the FSA to go in the next 10 years. So massive thank you to everybody, and we'll say thank yous again at the end, I'm sure. What we want to be looking at is how do we together work with our members and work with the wider forest school community, with our awarding organisations, and really engage in the big picture stuff within education and within environment and conservation, and just looking at how does forest school have the answers to the many challenges that children, young people, adults, humanity is facing. So Gareth, we get to your report. Are you happy to talk through bits of it? We can't hear you, I'm afraid.
It's very classic error. Certainly, yes, I can do that.
That would be great. Thank you.
I'll switch to the report, which means I can't see you. But do feel free to interrupt at any point if you have a burning question. And I will disappear to the other screen now. Okay. So we were able to start at some point in the last 12 months on the plan that was already partly developed prior to COVID, which was about professionalizing the FSA and focusing on doing fewer things, but doing them better. COVID, I'll say got in the way, but also it created actually some opportunities for us in terms of our ability to provide services and that address needs of members and the wider forest school community. But with I'll say COVID winding down, so to speak, in the UK certainly, we're able to get back on track with what we had previously hoped to do. So it was about refining the work and being more focused and making sure that everything that we were doing was orientated towards addressing those key outcomes, objectives, goals for the FSA in line with a strategy. And our strategy is effectively to act as the professional body for forest school in the UK, to create a situation where the industry is aware of the standards that we advocate for, and crucially that the market understands as well, so that there becomes a greater demand for forest school as we advocate for it. We call this quality forest school, but really what we're talking about is forest school as we would define it. And we a train of thought, apologies. So we have tried to orientate our work towards three core areas, and these are firstly developing, maintaining the professional standards for forest school practice and training. Secondly, advocating for and promoting quality forest school for all, but also the role of the FSA as a professional body and the professional services for those FSA members and helping our members to work to those professional standards. So the bit I just blanked on was joining together our support for the notion of quality forest school, so that becomes a greater demand in the market, because we compete, if you like, within the wider outdoor learning industry, and it's not only woodland education, it's all kinds of outdoor activities actually that people have the option of participating in. So we wish to advocate for quality forest school and demonstrate the benefits of quality forest school to the market, and then support the industry, which is us doing the quality forest school well, allowing them to meet that needs. And in this way, we hope our membership grows and the demand grows and so on. So we have these 3 work areas which are all orientated towards doing that. So there was a consolidation period in the last 12 months as we started to get better at it, and there's a long way to go in all kinds of areas, particularly areas like support for local affiliated groups. But we have seen some incremental growth, which is good, because during COVID everybody took a bit of a hit. A lot of membership organizations lost members and so on. But between April of last year and April of this year, we have seen a modest increase in numbers, and we've increased particularly in terms of individual members, and our flagship schemes, if you like, for the trainers and the providers are starting to attract more people in. So we have growth in both of those schemes as well. And so codified within these schemes are the national professional standards for forest school, and that's what we advocate for. So we have influence now in the entire stack, you could call it, from the development of the forest school qualifications themselves, that is, as cooperating with the awarding organisations in England, Scotland, and in Wales, and we have influence in the training delivery through the FSA recognised forest school trainers scheme, quality assurance scheme, and the group of those endorsed trainers who cooperate to standardise and develop qualifications. Standardising not only actually within training, but also informing delivery practices as well. So that's the broad overview of what we do, because from there you also have the recognised forest school providers, and then a body of work that's been done to try and develop support material for practitioners. Anel is working on developing support resources specifically at the moment for the FSA recognised forest school providers, and as that gets fleshed out, that should become a really important resource for those members and those members who are interested in joining us in that scheme. We've also made provision for associate members who aren't currently practicing but want to be part of what we do, because there is a gap between those people who are doing forest school and those who wish they were doing forest school but find themselves unable at this time, but definitely support the ethos, and those who think they're doing forest school potentially, but who may not actually be doing forest school. But as the FSA advocates for the 6 principles of forest school, I think that our industry really does understand it now, and it's unfortunately the market that needs to have the change. They understand the benefits of actually having forest school provision, and that's probably our main orientation going forward from here, to try and influence that market to help them understand. Also, of course, with things like Ofsted inspectors, it'd be wonderful to be able to provide them with the guidance, materials and opportunities to attend workshops and so on, seminars, but they understand what they're seeing when they are inspecting a setting that does offer forest school. So there's all kinds of exciting things that can be done, and we're orientated towards doing that going forward. So that's certainly the broad overview, and probably for some of the more specific activities we've been working on, I'll stop talking and maybe let somebody else chip in at this point, maybe on the schemes, the 2 schemes that we run.
Thanks, Gareth. Well, I wonder if we just literally whistle through the report, the next thing on the specific activity is local groups. So I wonder if we can ask Lou to say something about local groups.
Yes, of course. So we have some amazing people in our membership that volunteer their time to create their local groups in their own sort of geographical region. And at the moment we have 13 formally formed local groups in the UK. So a big thank you to all the volunteers that help with those local groups, and they organise all sorts of events and activities that local groups can benefit from, like coming together, networking events, skill shares. Some of them also like put on outdoor first aid training. Even one of the local groups offers small setup grants and things as well for that their local forest school practitioners can access. So that's lovely. The most recent couple of local groups to kind of come on board and become formally affiliated are FSA London and FSA Cambridgeshire. So a big welcome to those groups. And each of the local groups nominates a national representative within their committee, and so we meet with all of those like national reps from all around the UK 4 times a year, and we have a little working group that together works to support the local groups generally, and also for the local groups to share amongst themselves and sort of communicate and share practice about what's worked in different parts of the country. So yes, a big thank you to all of those national reps as well that dedicate their time to that. And of course, any of our memberships, if they feel like there's a critical mass of members growing in their particular geographical region, any FSA member can approach us and start to form a local group. And I believe that there are rumblings in North Wales around perhaps that being maybe the next local group that might kind of come together. There's movement towards that, as I understand it, in that region. But yeah, any member can start that process of trying to form a real life local group.
Thanks so much, Lou. The next is our awarding organisations forum, which Gareth has already mentioned. Lily is our trustee representative on that, and we have a member of the endorsed trainers group is also on that forum. And just to say that there are 8 members now, so 8 awarding organisations. So those are the people who offer the qualifications, and we had 6 of those awarding organisations were involved in the most recent review of the qualification, the national qualification, and that has also gone out to all the trainers across the land who are involved in those awarding organisations. So not just members of the FSA, it's gone broader than the FSA. And the plan is, and it's been written down and shared and agreed with all these awarding organisations, that the next big review of the national qualification will happen towards the end of 2026, but already colleagues are working on it. So there's a lot of thinking going on about how do we continue to improve the qualification to meet the needs of our groups and answer and address some of the issues that are faced within society. And I think that's where I keep coming back to the fact that we talk about quality forest school for all. There are people using forest school with adults who self-harm, adults who are within the justice system, teenagers with mums and babies. And I know of somebody who's running forest school in an old people's home. So using the approach with people across all ages. And certainly that's something that seems to be growing and developing, which is very exciting. And that does take me to the next bit, the Forest Education Network England. So we are members of that network. There's a great website that's hosted by the Royal Forestry Society, and we're in that group along with lots of other organisations who are very committed to forestry and woodland education. And it's been exciting to be part of that and continue to be part of that, looking at how do we support organisations and government departments, even Forestry Commission and Forestry England come to us and ask us for guidance and advice around what does quality forest school look like, and what information do they need to have to ensure that anyone using their woodlands is doing a good job with their woodland management, and around insurance and all kinds of different things. So it's great to be part of that community, and I think the Forest School Association is doing a really good job of contributing and learning from other organisations. That takes us to the Nature Premium campaign. And this is a wonderful, wonderful thing that has come out of the trustees having a conversation a few years ago in the first lockdown, when we ended up saying, coming out of lockdown, children were going to need a nature premium like they need a sports premium, a pupil premium. And if you want to find out more about that, anyone who's listening to this AGM, then just check out the website, which is naturepremium.org. I think the important thing to say is the FSA hosted and cared for and nurtured the Nature Premium campaign, and the Nature Premium campaign has come out of the FSA with the blessing of the trustees to become a separate entity, hosted and cared for by the Institute for Outdoor Learning, who have set up a platform so we can join the platform along with other people, and they're enabling us to have good governance. But the Nature Premium has become an idea. It isn't owned by anybody, and the working group, the steering group for the Nature Premium consists of lots of different organisations, including the FSA, and I'm currently co-chairing that with Richard Dunn of the Harmony Project. And the idea being that different organisations will co-chair as we go through the history of the Nature Premium. I think that gives you enough there. Community Forest and Woodland Outreach Project. This has been part of the National Children and Nature Programme, which was funded by DEFRA and the Department for Education. And the FSA has been consulted with around the Community Forest and Woodland Outreach Project, which is a very significant part of that big project. And members of the FSA have been involved in most of the 5 projects that have happened under that Community Forest and Woodland Outreach banner. And we're waiting for the results of that. And as the FSA, we had particular connections with the Forest Foxes project, and we supported their bid, and we've given guidance and advice and some training. So that's going to be exciting, I think. And when we know that that is actually a government funded project, and the results of that are going to be going into, hopefully, will inform policy. And that's where the Nature Premium is very handy, because the Nature Premium is going to be looking at all of the research and findings of all these different reports, and then using those for conversations with government around policy and education policy in particular. That takes us now to the FSA Recognised Forest School Provider Scheme. And it'd be great to hear a little bit more from you on that one.
Lovely. Do you want slightly updated figures, Sarah? Because it's changed a little bit since I submitted my report.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That would be exciting.
Thank you. So yeah, I'm now one of the 3 staff members of the FSA, and I look after 2 of our schemes, one being the Recognised Provider Scheme, which is a voluntary recognition and development scheme for people who provide forest school. And got Jeff, who's a recognised forest school, and recently, since our last AGM, I'm now a recognised forest school provider too. And it's for people who want to demonstrate that they're facilitating forest school in line with the 6 principles. So we've got 75 now, I think, that are recognised, and we've got a further 29 going through the process at various stages. And in the last year, we've concluded quite a long process of bringing along people who were originally approved as part of the original scheme that was launched by a colleague of mine within the FSA. We revised the scheme in 2019, and the benchmarks were slightly tweaked. And so we've gone through this process of making sure that everybody that's currently recognised meets the same set of standards. And that's been quite lengthy. And sadly, along the way, we have lost some recognised providers. But what we can say now is that everybody who's currently recognised is meeting the same standards. So that feels good. We've also got a lovely new working group, which is really exciting. It's comprised of recognised providers, staff members, got a trustee, we've got a registered trainer, so it's a nice diverse group, and they're working with me to do various things, but we've been developing what Gareth referred to as the support resource. So this is going to be a web-based resource for existing recognised providers and those who are applying to the scheme to help them develop practice in any areas that they're particularly interested in or struggling with. So that's very much underway, and I'm hoping over the next few months we will have a version ready for people to begin using. And I'd just like to say a big thank you to all of the people that are in the working group, because that's been tremendously helpful. We've also done a survey of our existing recognised providers over the last 12 months to try and find out what their challenges are that they've been experiencing and any areas that they'd like support with. Those results were published in one of our newsletters, and we are using those results to inform the decisions that we're making about how the scheme develops in the future. We also had our inaugural face-to-face meeting of recognised providers at the national conference over in Danbury, which was lovely, and I think we're going to repeat that again. So looking ahead for the provider scheme, we're going to be focusing in the immediate future on getting the support resource ready and developed, and then hopefully we're going to be thinking about networking within that group so that we can support one another better and facilitate better conversations between people and think about training a little bit more, CPD training. So that's the recognised provider scheme.
Thank you so much, Nell. I know many of the recognised providers have really valued the process themselves, because it's a really reflective process. And I want to register my thanks to you for all the ways that you make that as approachable as possible and give people the support that they need. And I think it's important to say this is a part of the ethos and principles is very much about ongoing development. And, you know, for me, this feels like one of the best things the FSA does to actually support people to reflect on their practice and improve it. So thank you so much. May we come back to you again straight away for the endorsed trainers?
Sure, yes. Yeah, that's the other aspect of my work for the FSA is looking after the quality assurance scheme for people who train forest school practitioners. This is a bit different. It's a very rigorous 3-stage quality assurance process, full on. And we have got an endorsed trainer in the group. We've got Sarah, an endorsed trainer, and you're one of 12 colleagues who are currently fully endorsed trainers. We've got another 4 who are registered trainers, so they're kind of halfway through the process, if you like, and then we've got a further 7 who are applying at the moment. So healthy numbers, they're swelling. And in the last year, we have had face-to-face CPD again, which is a whole day where the trainers come together and we offer content that's going to help a group with their quite niche work area. We've also had virtual training sessions, so it's quite an active network. And the application process for this one's quite in-depth, and the stage 1 application is a desktop assessment of lots of evidence that gets submitted. But stages 2 and 3, we work with a little team of assessors to help with those. And so stage 2 is interviewing the students of people that have recently gone through courses with the trainers. And then stage 3 is a peer conversation between existing endorsed trainers and the applicant, and also assessors. And because our numbers are swelling, we've had to expand our assessor team. So I've taken that as a very positive step, and thanks to those people that have joined us as assessors, so that we can keep on top of things. And looking ahead for the QA scheme, we are hopefully going to make a proposal to the board for some adjustments to some of our benchmarks, trying to make sure that we keep appropriate for the market that's out there and what's happening in the world. As Sarah mentioned, we're going to be working on the qualification review, which is going to end in 2026, but will require work beforehand. We're going to hopefully plan some more CPD events for people so that we can gather and look at some things and discuss things in depth. And also the endorsed trainers are going to be writing some guidance notes for members. So that's hopefully going to generate some really important content that will be very valuable to the wider membership. And of course, I'm going to be supporting our ongoing member applicants, the 7 who have just started and the 4 that are in the middle of it, hopefully get them up to the point where they can be fully endorsed trainers, and then that will almost double our numbers.
Thank you, Nell. And certainly as one of the endorsed trainers, I can vouch for what a very important and valuable source of professional development and support and encouragement the endorsed trainers are to me. And I know our colleagues feel the same, Nell, and we again appreciate the way you keep us all going and connected. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Whistling through the projects, Gareth, do you want to say anything about the app?
We had funding, very modest amount of funding to develop an app 2.5 years ago. We were very grateful to receive it from what was then called the Ashton Trust. They're called the Aurora Trust now. And in that period, of course, we had a big health crisis, and that derailed things rather. But the purpose of the app is to be able to collect an awful lot of data, so mass participatory research from practitioners, both for forest school, but also from other forms of woodland-based learning and nature learning, so that we can see the effects over time of the different approaches that are taken. It's hopefully going to be a wonderful resource that will help academics write papers and publish papers to compare and contrast, and ultimately allow the FSA to better advocate for forest school as a separate approach. We're trying to do an awful lot of app with very little money. We were offered the funding and I had to pull together a proposal in a matter of days, and it turns out that we probably needed 10 times more money than we originally asked for to accomplish the level of development that we really need. But we've been very grateful to have a lot of voluntary effort offered to us by designers and developers, but it does mean that the whole project is quite slow to progress. So the hope, the expectation is that we'll have something launched this year for providers to capture data on participants of forest school programs, and will help us have a better understanding of things like well-being and various parameters which we can never remember what they are. Apologies. It's four we're going for. I won't attempt to remember them. So that's the app.
Thank you so much, Gareth. We know Nick has had a lot of headaches, but he's worked really hard on it, and so grateful thanks to Nick for that. And that takes me to the book, which Barnabas in India has already said that it's managed to get to him. So we're really excited that the book is reaching people around the world. And I know from those colleagues I speak to who have bought a copy and are using it for helping them with their training, helping them with their ongoing professional development, and that it is such a great source of information, collective information, that colleagues within the FSA were so generous to give their expertise and their time and their skill to create the book. Nick, again, did an incredible job of drawing it all together and creating something I think we can all feel really proud of. And it is exciting to know that we're nearly on 15,000 copies sold. we really need to take over the world with this book. So I would recommend that you give it to everybody for their presents. Good Christmas present, brilliant Valentine's gift. So let's keep sharing that. But it is a really amazing source of great knowledge and wisdom. And
I believe Nick's rather proud that it's been sent to all continents now except Antarctica.
wow, well, that's amazing. Maybe they don't have very many trees in Antarctica. Maybe. So that also, in the projects, you've already mentioned the academic symposium, Gareth, and that is planned for June 2024. So we're looking forward to that. Jeff, I don't know if you saw, I sent you a little message to say, could you talk about the conference? Would you be happy to just because you've been at the last few, haven't you, if not all of them? Just give us a brief flavour of the conference and then go on to talk about the treasure a bit, if you would.
For sure. Hello. Hello, everybody. So Jeff Mason, I'm the company secretary and obviously one of the trustees of the FSA. So our conference has developed a lot over the past 10 years, and I have been to each of them. And currently, we are using, just for the year we just had and this coming year, a venue called Danbury in Essex, which really fits the bill. We did use it once in the past and it worked well there. The purpose of the conference really is to bring together the members of the FSA, as well as interested parties and other organisations. Now, the other organisations may come along as to do workshops or to speak to us, and so it's a celebration of all things Forest School, and some things that aren't Forest School as well, like my dancing. And I do remember once that Sarah hoped that I would bring my kilt once, and for the last 3 FSA conferences, I have been there in my kilt. So there we go. So
good year that year we had 2 kilts.
Well, yes, that's
you
right.
and that lovely bloke from Scotland.
Indeed, indeed. Yes, funny that. Yeah. So, but yes. So members' requests are always listened to and acted upon. And so the conference is made up from sets of speakers and in a sort of forums that we have, as well as workshops, and they could be theoretical workshops or practical workshops, and they're all well attended and well received. And I think with the success, and it's a success of our conferences, they're becoming more and more broadly attended, and the key thing really is the camaraderie that it develops, because a lot of us who work in forest schools are, for most intents and purposes, lone workers. So we rarely actually get to meet other forest school types. And so it's lovely to get together and meet like-minded people and exchange ideas and home-brewed beer and things. So the going forward, as I said, the conference again will be at Danbury. Nick works very hard on bringing the conference together, and it's and I know it takes up a great deal of his time that he works for us. And so Danbury this year, but then change of venue for 2024, and also, as has been mentioned before, we're going to have a symposium next year also, which will be separate to the conference. So it's not instead of the conference, it will be different to the conference. So there we go. Any further questions or anything else that I can fill in? No? Okay.
Thank you so much, Jeff. And the treasurer bit would be great. Thank you.
Okay. So clearly I'm not the treasurer, And as an organisation, we have lacked a treasurer since John Cree left our number. We've tried various methods to get somebody to volunteer to be a treasurer. Really, the treasurer's role is not actually to draw the books together or do the accounts. The accounts are all done anyway. The treasurer's role is to oversee probity and honesty, and to sort of rubber stamp the accounts that are put together. Obviously, there's discussion between the officers and staff of the FSA. I nearly said the union there. That goes back to my past, doesn't it? So the officers of the FSA and the treasurer. So in the past, we've drawn our treasurer from our own trustees membership. At the moment, nobody feels able, for one reason or another, to commit to being the treasurer. So we then, during the course of the year just gone, we put out a request to the general membership to see if there was anybody there who would like to come forward as a treasurer. Unfortunately, we had no one there either. I think people are frightened off because they think they're going to be an accountant, but
Or have to deal with HMRC.
yeah, or have to deal with HMRC, which who wants to do that? So the next step for us as an organisation to find a treasurer is actually to go outside of our own community. There are organisations that basically put charities like ourselves in contact with people who are willing to give their time to charities to bring in their professional expertise. So really what we're going to do is contact a couple of these organisations, and they will put out requests to either their members or to people that have expressed interest as to who wants to be a treasurer for this particular charity. And hopefully we'll find somebody through that. Clearly, they may well not be a forest school person or even an outdoor educationalist, but what they will be is perhaps a retired accountant or a retired insurance person, or somebody who works for a bank but has got some spare time and wants to help out charities. We stand a reasonable chance to go down that avenue. I do believe that Matt has already put together a sort of a sample proposal that in line with one of the organisations. So we've sort of got the wheels in motion. We can operate and have operated without a treasurer for probably 18 months to 2 years now. It's not ideal. We're not in contravention of any regulations, but it's good practice, obviously, to have a treasurer. So there we go. If there's anybody who's listening to this who fancies a go, then please talk to us, and it would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much, Jeff. And I think it's worth us saying that at this point in time, the treasurer does not need to be a trustee of the FSA.
No.
All the added responsibilities of that role.
No.
So thank you so much. We come to seminars. Now, Lou, I know that seminars have been created. Would you like to give us a 2-minute think on that? Because I think you've been involved in that group.
Can I just check? You mean seminars, not webinars?
Yes, I mean the seminars. So the report says there's some in-depth content videos for members, and that's the stuff that that you were involved in creating.
Yes, okay. Going to cast my mind back, there was a project idea around exploring the 6 principles of Forest School in more depth. And myself, Lily Horsman and John Cree recorded sort of a series of interviews, if you like, well, discussions. They were more like discussions and conversations going into more depth around each of those 6 principles. And yes, Nick has been busy editing them and doing technological wizardry with them, and hopefully they will be available soon.
Thanks, Lou. The certified course scheme that Nick and other colleagues worked on has been parked to be revisited, and I think that is one of the projects that is going to be revisited in this next year. So that's looking at how can we support colleagues who are creating courses that will then in turn build the professionalism of Forest School practitioners. And that would be something that would be then offered through the FSA website. So it's around building and developing CPD, and that's an exciting thing for the future. Gareth also noted that using jobs and social media events board, but again, that's something that's a small project that actually took a lot of time and energy and effort, and we're very grateful that we have a CEO who's very website savvy and can do all those things. So we have a CEO who does other clever stuff too. We're very lucky in that. The newsletter Nick works very hard on, and we have 2 colleagues who support him, who do a wonderful job. And for a moment there, my brain has gone to mush. It's Dawn and Terry, I believe. Yes, thank you. Dawn and Terry, who again, they're part of a local group, do lots of work, have done loads of work on the conference over the past couple of years, and are also supporting on the newsletter. So massive thank you to them. We come now to the Wednesday webinars. Matt, are you happy to talk about those? We're nearly there, everyone. You've done a great job sticking the course here. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. So the webinars are a free resource that we've been working on for the last couple of years now, and they came about through the COVID transition when we were all working from home and accustoming ourselves to Zoom. But they've managed to maintain quite an integral part of membership and external people that aren't part of our membership networking, which is a really good thing. We also very lucky, we've had a wide range of experts and people that are very passionate about different types of areas of outdoor education and things that relate to Forest School and outdoor learning come along and share their expertise. And like the whole of the FSA, we are going through a process of trying to make it more professional and more organised. And this year we've managed to get to a point where we have organised a whole schedule for the entirety of the year to be planned. And thanks to Nick and Gareth and their technical wizardry, we've got the website now has a dedicated webinar page, which means that we are having extra traffic to the website, and we're able to potentially in the future offer things like the seminars and paid for webinars through the same ticketing process that we use for the free Wednesday webinars. So looking ahead for this next coming year, we're looking to tighten up the strategy of our Wednesday webinars and use it as a slightly more effective marketing for membership and for gaining income, whilst trying to keep the webinars themselves free. So there's a lots of other things that we're trying to do with that, but they have so far proved to be very effective in terms of gaining book sales, because we have a discount code which we are able to publicize, and that is giving us a nice way of tracking the impact that the webinars have on income streams for the FSA.
Thank you so much, Matt, and a massive thank you to the team who've been working on the webinars. Matt and Lou especially have really kept them going through this last year, and I know Paul, who's here on the call, Paul gave a great webinar, and we've had some fabulous topics. I regularly hear from people who've been there in person, who've really valued attending and feeling part of a community, as well as getting to access really rich learning. When you're working in schools particularly, it's very hard at the moment to get CPD. So I think this is a vitally important thing that you're enabling to happen. So massive thank you. And that takes us, I think, to the bit that is the finance part that Gareth's going to talk about. And just to say, somebody's actually sent a thank you for the report. They enjoyed reading it. And my goodness, those figures are tight. So Gareth, again, recognizing what amazing work is done on a very small budget. So would you like to share that bit for us?
I mean, that is the bottom line, really. That point. We've always, what's the expression, punched above our weight, far above our weight. We're bantam weights up against heavyweights, I think would be the analogy, in terms of what we're doing. As I say in the report, we've got one full-time member of staff, which is Nick, as our projects officer, but he's only 3 days a week on projects. The rest is other more administrative roles. We've got Nell, a day or two a week, and myself on 3 days a week. So if you look at that resource input just from a staffing point of view, it's really quite small compared to that full scope of what we do and the depth of what we do. And the only reason we can do it is because we do have some, well, we've got a very committed, dedicated board able to sort of give us the guidance that we need, but also volunteer managers who are principally drawn from the board, but acting within the areas of operations. And so things like the webinars, they just couldn't happen without volunteers at any point, the management of it or the delivery of particular webinars. So that's fantastic. However, if we had even more management capacity, we could really unlock an exponential, I would say, amount of volunteer resource. You know, we have, in terms of people in the FSA, close to 2,000. Different membership types make it a little bit less, but and within that body, there's so much expertise, and so we need, you know, a volunteer manager, we need a marketing communication manager, we need a research coordinator, we need someone to have, you know, an overview on professional standards and so on. All full time. I could find work for all of them. Now, that's not addressing the numbers of the budget, but that is the meaning behind them. It's a comparatively small budget that the FSA runs off. Let's have a look here what our bottom lines were last year. So £180,000 of revenue and £175,000 worth of expenditure. So we're slightly ahead after bank charge and things. We come out, you know, £1,500, £2,000 ahead, which is unusual. We often come behind on any given year. So in other words, really tight. And the reason the numbers are fairly high at the 170 odd is because we've had some project funding that's passed through our books, and of course we have the conference, which is a fairly substantial amount of money that comes through our books each year, and but also goes out again each year for delivery, and strategically incredibly important from a finance perspective, because without it we would really struggle. It helps us sort of break even each year, but it's also a great financial risk each year because we have to underwrite it. I mean, if you look at all wages and salaries and things for everybody, it's well, depending how you measure it, I would say £70,000. Which again, look at the scope of what we do in the FSA, professional body for forest school in the UK. How many people are out doing forest school? How many members we've got? It's remarkable. It really is remarkable, and has been remarkable for the last 10 years. Just sort of in conclusion, we are in a better financial position now than we have been in the past. We do have 12 months of runway on the budget. So that's great. I mean, you go back to the beginning of life of the FSA, we had, you know, what was going to happen next month was always in question. So we're okay financially, but we could do so much more. If somebody wants to throw £1 million at us, we will grow explosively. That's it.
Thank you very much. So that reaches the end of the report. A massive thank you to everyone who's contributed to it. And if I may just be very cheeky at the end, just say that, you know, we are an organisation of ordinary people. We're people who are passionate about nature connection. We're passionate about children and young people having a fair life, having opportunities and being able to develop. We're super passionate about Forest School. And I think this last year, just seeing the groups that I personally get to work with, you know, my colleagues who I've trained and the children, young people I get to see at Forest School, I do know that Forest School is making a difference. And the fact that actually the government at the moment, financially, there's all kinds of pressures being faced by schools, by big organisations and little organisations. Yet our members are there in the middle of all of it, providing quality Forest School that really is addressing social issues. And I do think we all need to give ourselves a pat on the back. And I'm going to invite you to do that on behalf of all the members as well. Go, well done, very well done. And we've got an awful lot of work to do. So I commend this report to you. I think it shows you there's some really exciting things going to happen in the next year, and some amazing work has happened already. So grateful thanks to you all. Number 6 on our agenda is motions. That does not mean you get a toilet break. You will have one in a minute though. So motions, there are any motions? Are there any motions, Gareth?
No, we haven't received any questions or motions from members.
So are there any questions from our lovely visitors who've joined us, our friends who've come? Barnabas and Steve have come all the way from India. And Vicky, I think you've come from Oxfordshire. How lovely to see you. Do any of you have any questions? Sarah, have you got any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I would just love to say, for the last 12 years, and it is 10 years since we became a charity, but Gareth's been with us for longer than that. Every year, he very calmly says, and we've managed to do this, and we could do so much more if we had so much more. But somehow he gets us through. And I just think it's amazing. We are so lucky to have him. And I know we're very lucky to have Nick as well, but Gareth's here. And I would just like to extend a huge, big thank you to him for all his work over the last years.
Thank you, Sarah. I think
Very, very kind, Sarah. And Nell too, I would add. You know, as the three of us are able to get an awful lot done.
Brilliant. Thank you. So that gets us to the last bit, which is the election of trustees. Gareth, you're going to tell us what happened.
Okay, so the results of the election, we had, I forget how many places, but more places than there were candidates. 4 candidates, Lewis, Matt, Jeff and Paul. Lewis, Matt and Jeff were re-standing for election. Paul was a new candidate. We had eligible, we had an electorate of eligible voters at 1,207 potential voters. 40 people voted, which was an improvement on last year. And I think what partly what's happening is people realise that there are more places than candidates, and that affects their view. But actually, candidates still have to get more than 50% of the vote. In other words, of the people who do vote, more than 50% of them must be in favour of a particular candidate coming through. And on this occasion, I'm very pleased to say all the candidates had more than 50% of the vote, greater than 50% of the vote. So all 4 candidates will move forward to take up positions as trustees on the board of the FSA.
And we can go, yeehaw! Thank you so much. And
I'm sorry, I'll publish the full results online as usual after the AGM.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Gareth. And we need to say a big thank you to Paul, because Paul has stood and supported the FSA through the last year as an advisor. And even knowing all that he knows from his experience, he still has stood as a trustee, which is a great thing. So we didn't manage to put you off, Paul. I don't know how that happened, but thank you very much. And we've really valued the input from our advisors over the past 2 years. This was a pilot. We were trialing it to see if that would help us. And actually, after the 2 years, we've recognized that if we do put into practice all of the recommendations from our governance officer, and if we work on the things that have been recommended, that the actual advisor's role is not necessary. But it has been super helpful to us in the past 2 years, because we've had other colleagues coming in and joining the board to give guidance. And going forward, we're looking at creating a system whereby we can actually bring in expertise of people within the FSA and from without the FSA to actually guide and advise us. So we will be looking for people to help. It won't be in an advisor capacity, but it will perhaps be as an advisor in a different spelling with an E, not an O, perhaps. So we look forward to what this next year has for us. Really grateful that you've all joined us today for this meeting. So I'm going to close the meeting unless anyone has got anything else they'd like to ask us. I wonder if you could just pop into the chat box any thoughts that you have now after this little conversation that we've had, sharing of the work of the FSA. Would anyone like to pop anything into the chat as we say goodbye to each other? So I invite you to do that. And while we're waiting for people to just pop their little comments in, I'm going to ask the trustees who are on the call to just stay on the call when we've said goodbye to everybody else, just for a few minutes. So I'm just having a look here. Thank you for the work you do, for the resources you provide. Well there, everyone. See you at the conference. Thank you from the membership for the work you do on our behalf. And Emma said, the FSA are a great association, have been a big support in my journey. Well, that's great. And thank you, Vicky. Awesome to see this group of dedicated people making amazing things happen on our behalf. Well done. Thank you so much, everybody. Wonderful to have you with us. And Barnabas and Steve, do get in touch with us through the website if we can help you with anything. We'd love to.
Thank you. One of the key things that you guys did was